Yeah.
I've got one last question for you before we finish up. Judith, what does it mean to be an effective Constellations Facilitator?
Well, in one way, we never know, because we offer something and then we withdraw and we hand it over to the unfolding of that person's fate. We trust them with it. Sometimes we find out what effect it has. Sometimes it doesn't have any effect for a long time, and then conditions change and it has an effect. Sometimes it has an effect and then that effect dies out because the cost of maintaining that effect is too high. But the way I think of constellations as helping people is the first thing it does is it just widens their lens. And that's always helpful. And once we've widened our lens, we tend not to lose all of it as time goes on. And that helps us see ourselves and other people in context. You know, in Europe, and maybe this is true in South Africa too, or maybe something a bit different is true. My parents' generations, you know, my mother lived through the Second World War and my father fought in the First World War. And they lived through worlds that were profoundly changing and traumatized. When I was growing up, nobody talked about those things. I just thought they were annoying in the way that a child would. They were limited. I didn't understand their context. And through my kind of wide reading and studying of international history, and I'm sure this is true in South Africa, that once you see people in their context, you see a racist in his context, you see a black person in their context, you never unsee them again. It's a very helpful thing to do. And I think that when people in a constellation are able to feel the restoration of flow and love, even if they don't maintain all of it, they know the direction of the journey they've got to be in. It's as if they've caught a taste of what it's like when their sails are filled with a very good wind. And they know their part that they need to play in catching that wind. And I think it's often incredibly helpful for people to just disentangle their fates with the fates of other people. You know, to be able to say, I am more fortunate than you, and I would love your blessing to be more fortunate than you. You know, to be able to say to parents. So that people often go away from constellations feeling they've got the blessings, the permission somehow to live better than they thought was possible. And they know that what they need is not so much sympathy, but courage. You know, a lot of therapy gives people sympathy, and sympathy is very helpful in initially discovering what's going on inside you. I'm not against sympathy, but it eventually isn't enough. It's part of a secondary process if you're not careful. So this support for courage, even if it's not complete, is often set off by a constellator. And so it's as if we've been given something in a constellation which it's like a package that can go on opening, or a perfume that can go on spreading for a while.
What a lovely image. Is there anything you would like to add before we wrap up?
Well, I think that all good traditions, all healing traditions, are a sort of mixture of kindness and fierceness. You know, whether it's shamanistic traditions or religious traditions or whatever, that's what we need, is both together. And Bert Hellinger, at the time when I was learning from him, showed me that path. So I feel tremendously grateful that I recognized it and in a way have been trying to develop both for my own life and in my work. And it's what I obviously wish for your students too, what we want for life.
Thank you so much, Judith. That was absolutely fantastic. And I so appreciate your time and your wisdom and for sharing with us today. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.